I wanted to add that we have to earn some of this that we're calling ability and creative intelligence. We have to sort of sacrifice ourselves in the process. We have to meet it halfway. This is true in terms of the spiritual as well as the material. You have to reach for it in some cases. You have to know it's there for you to reach for. And so the effort is really necessary up to a point. And I think all effort in terms of all creative endeavors is appropriate up until you get to, let's say, this balance where then you're able to allow this thing, whatever it is that you've been striving to master, to work through you by itself. And that to me might have more to do with true or pure genius when we can get to that, where it's just happening by itself. Okay? But it's not happening by itself in terms of things happen by themselves out here by chance or unconsciously. Unconsciousness, so we're talking about things are happening by themselves in terms of a consciousness, an impeccable sort of order that is outside of the mind, so to speak, where you can't touch it. It's so perfect, it's already there. And when we try to manipulate it, we realize that we are messing with it, something that is beyond, let's say, a certain kind of human involvement in a manner of speaking. I don't mean to sound too bizarre about that, but that seems to be what it is. When we're talking about the higher spiritual and the higher creative, there's a certain cutoff point where you have involvement in it. There's only so much you as a person, a human, can give it, and then it goes from there. It has its own reality.
So are you saying then that you can't manipulate it? That it's either go with the flow or get out of the way?
Well, karmically, everything is going on simultaneously. So we have this kind of simultaneous, let's say, dynamic of chaos on the earth. But the idea is to work from the inside, not in terms of the karmic stream itself. But we're here beyond the karmic stream to add something to the karmic stream, to more or less bring light to the karmic stream. See, so the jungle level of existence left to itself is going to do what it does. And it's a perfection unto itself. But we are part of an infinite spectrum of perfections, see, and realizations that can bring higher levels of perfection to an order to certain kinds of levels of reality. In the case of our children, they're operating in a certain level of perfect childishness, let's say, in that reality. And it's up to us to guide them. So there's a need for higher guidance and intelligence up to the point where, again, the higher has its way, not the lower. And accident and mishap, which are all part of the course of the material modes of nature, which are pretty much natural. But there's a higher order that is beyond that, that is not about the change. It's about changelessness. That is part of the structure, and we need to be able to understand that, live from that, gain that kind of intuitional, let's say, insight into what it is, and try to bring things to that level of openness. See?
From chapter 73, you write, "There are those spirit souls who may also sleepwalk or astral travel despite being conscious as the physical body, whereas the astral or subtle senses are controlling the physical body while the spirit is actively engaged in various activities." Are you talking about daydreaming, or are you referring to something else? And if so, can you give an example of what you're referring to when you say one can astral travel despite being conscious as the physical body?
Well, we are multidimensional beings. We are astral traveling. We don't necessarily see it as such, but we daydream. We're in and out of the body. We're in our minds. So to be in the mind does not mean to always be in the body. If we're talking about the faculty of genius, you can be in your mind and not even know you have a body. When we talk about spiritual practice and extreme practitioners, they can be in the mind. That means in their world, their ideal world, in their intelligence, and not have anything to do with the physical. See, because they're separate components of consciousness that ordinarily are integrated, relatively speaking, but to the extreme, are really extreme. See? So we are in the body, but we're not the body. See? And so these kinds of astral daydreams and excursions are pretty normal for us. See? Fantasies. Being at your work desk and all of a sudden thinking of somebody. I mean, are you really thinking, or are you connecting with the body of the other person? See? A mother who's separated from her child by way of circumstance, or let's say geography or location, or let's say in the case of parents who have their children in the military, right? Are they really separated from those children? I don't think so. I think they're breathing with those children all the time. So that means they have a psychic astral function that is there that extends to the child, to other beings, as needed, see? As determined necessary or appropriate or even crucial to the survival of one or the other, both parties. See, so we're talking about the expansion of consciousness based upon awareness here. And so, yeah, we have infinite potential in that manner, see? To participate in other levels of consciousness. Now, in terms of ordinary work consciousness, you have to be focused on the job at hand. But that doesn't mean you're not sharing your consciousnesses with different beings, so you have different levels of consciousness. And so sometimes we do it at the speed of light. People have cats they have to be thinking about, they have parakeets, they have cars, they have bills. You know, the mind is like huge to be handling all of these things. The computer technology came out of the brain, and the brain is like the universe. So, yes, we're quite capable. And when we sleep, we have another variety of potential there when we're sleeping. We can be any amount of beings, we can be one person, we can be a whole universe. You are the universe. So you can be the universe and it's imagination. So we're talking now about the possibilities that we have because of the gift that we have called imagination. See? And that is related to what we would call the mind of the God, or the mind of the infinite, the God of creation. See? And we are that. We have that potential. Are we free enough, are we open enough to be able to do certain things that others can do more easily? That depends. Now, if we can stop a person, let's say from the street or the ghetto, and give them an opportunity to think along lines of creative intelligence and genius, they have the same potential. Regardless of race, color, whatever the background is, you can stop that person and you can tune them into something. That means their potential, their soul level of reality. And say, tell me, can you have your awareness? Can you think of the next room? Can you think of the next street down there? Can you, while you're in this office here, in this clinic, can you think of what things are going on in your mother's house, or in your father's house, or in your neighbor's house? And you see, everybody has the ability to do that. So they're already present in the body, yet extended, but they're not specializing in the extensions. And they're not practicing being in the extensions. So of course, by nature, then they're limited to being a self, but they're still doing that, but they're not conscious of it as such. So that is really a gift given to all beings that can be used to heal, can be used to envision, can be used to save people, can be used by wish, right? Extension of wish. I wish and heal people, bless people, improve people, and destroy people, depending on how you are created to be out here amongst the living. And so the idea, of course, is we understand that, and we're here to convert that to a certain degree, the darkness, into goodness, if we can do that. That's what the function of a good spirit is to bring lights where there's no light, see? So that people can see what it is that they're doing, that they weren't able to see before because there was no light, and then they can choose from that what it is that they have to do.
Also from chapter 73 you write, once permanently freed of the envelope of the body, each physically emancipated spirit mechanically passes through various levels of their own mind-created illusions. These levels or dimensions of self are karmically accumulated and self-created. Would what you're referring to be considered a life review, or what some might say is one's life flashing before them upon death?
Well, the flashing forth of, let's say, the past life can happen at any point under pressure. You can even sit and meditate and do that if you have the inclination to do that. Okay. It doesn't mean that your consciousness or your unconsciousness is ready to reveal to you its contents. See? And sometimes these, what would appear to be obstructions or barriers in consciousness are really there as a safety nets for the individual. So you don't always have people who, in other words, it's not normal for people, who wish to know their past lives, access that. And for good reason, because they have things to focus on here by some kind of karmic law. And it keeps you working on your payments. And then you may have glimpses of the past in dreams. You may have glimpses of the past relative to relations that might help you to think about, who else you have been and who else you could be. And the idea, of course, is not to be so distracted by any of this that you fail to complete your mission, which is something that is between you and your guardians, you and your guides, as we say in the spiritualist field. You and the spirits around you, see, that are moving you to do good works because you're part of let's say, a circuit of helping other peeps. You incarnate unconsciously to do good for yourself, and then unconsciously actually help other people. In fact, it's like almost like a world circuit involved in this. Everybody's affecting everybody else, in a manner of speaking, but not everybody's conscious of the influence or the impact their little pipsqueak life, as they would like to see it, in their little apartment, in their little bedroom, would have on everybody else. But strangely, it is so. Right? Your name, comes up and it resonates with a whole bunch of other peeps who are connected to it. Your face resonates, and because it's connected to a number of other beings, and your tone resonates, it's connected with many other beings, and you see that you're made of everything, and everybody's made of the same thing, which means that there's really a question as to what real difference is in our beings. If we talk about the genetic makeup of the beings on the earth, all the different levels of creatures on the earth, it says there's very, very, very little distinction, very, very, very small distinction between certain species. So we're really made of the same stuff, but we have what we call intelligence. We have a certain kind of unique intelligence that gives us some kind of celestial sense of not only cosmic in terms of material space and energy, but some kind of sense of spaciousness. And when that's applied to the heart, we're talking about bigness. And when we apply it to the ears, we're talking about bigger ears. We're hearing more of the cosmic, but not just the cosmic in terms of the material forms of cosmic, but the formlessness of it. We got to move from the form to the formlessness and have a better sense of the balance. Then we're talking about what it is that we need to do here. See, with the form and the formlessness. See, what it is and what it isn't, with the darkness and with the light. See, so we can balance that and bring things into a certain kind of majestic, sort of, let's say, reality.
From chapter 74, you write, all states of ecstasy or bliss are subjective experiences, no matter how profound, divine, or indescribable. They will pass, since they are, in fact, an intensification of some quality, force, or vibratory rate relative to a particular plane of consciousness, which must be passed through in order for clear conscious isness or soul freedom to be realized. Would you say that heaven is a state of bliss, and if so, then is it fleeting?
It is fleeting? Well, we have, let's say, heaven and non-heaven mixed into us. It's blended there. Heaven is your state of mind. Hell is your state of mind. Transcendence is your state of mind. Unhappiness is your state of mind. Your state of mind then will have something to do with your resonance. Your resonance will have something to do with, let's say, resistances and let's say expansions, openness and hesitation. These kinds of programs and mechanisms which are built into you by blood, nature, and then are transformable because they are, let's say, forms, energy forms, and mind forms, and emotional forms. And material forms, they become stuff for transformation. All material energies, perceivable and less perceivable, are subject to transformation. They are subject to dissolution. And so we can then accept, let's say, laws of the universe as we see it in terms of the Earth's position, and gravitational laws, and then we have levitational laws which exist and arise simultaneously, that have more to do with the celestial function or spiritual function, real spiritual, truth spiritual. That means non-material, absolutely non-material element of our existence. We are non-material, material beings. We are spiritual human beings in potential. And so, any comments on that?
No comments.
And so we have to come to terms with the balance of these forces, material forces, the light forces and the dark forces, and to what degree we feel, yeah, our purpose is gravitational and limited and in bondage, and to what degree we are here to counter that and balance that and convert that and transform that into more happiness. And we're talking now about heaven as happiness and bliss, and or suffering as hell and pain.
Chapter 75 is titled, Thoughts and Actions Reflect the Spirits You Keep. Are you saying that upgrading one's thoughts and actions could be accomplished by just keeping better company?
It depends on the company, yes. Better company would mean better influences to a certain degree. And we're talking about company in terms of who you mix with. That means who you take karma from, who you feed off of, who you feed, in effect. See? So there are higher types that bring you to a more neutral state of intelligence and consciousness. And if you associate with them, you pick up on it. If you're around a happy crowd, you're going to feel happy. If you're around a depressed crowd, you're going to feel depressed. So this is pretty much the nature of, let's say, sharing oxygen, sharing breathing, sharing presence, sharing space with other beings. So of course, if you can find elevated beings, let's say, if you have the opportunity to have, let's say, angelic beings come into your presence, you feel something completely different than you've ever felt before. Okay? A brightness that you're completely unfamiliar with as a gravitated being. And it's the same with certain alien beings. I'm not saying, what's pop alien beings, but there can be more celestial alien beings that come into our field, into our dreams, into our presence, that have a benign effect upon things, and you just have to be attuned to it. You have to be open to understanding that the Creator, if there's a Creator, it's an infinite creation. And if there's a divine being, then it has more to do with the beauty of each individual spirit soul. Right? The heart and the love that you have and the need for peace is divine. There's no question about it. We all want divine peace. We want heavenly peace. Right? And because we are born of heavenly peace, and we've just forgotten what that really means to us. And death is the closest you're going to get to it. So in a funeral parlor, when everybody's at war, there's peace. Because death is a message for people, see. And that is to rest in peace, to be in peace, to abide in peace. But not everyone is privileged with the karma of being in that kind of peace, see. So we have to come to the casket, for the most part, to understand what this life is really about. It's not about death as something that is beyond. No, it's about peace, which is present, not death where someone's gone beyond. Well, someone's gone into peace. We hope that all of us can practice being in peace so we can get there much before our body is brought back to earth, and we are sort of like left in, let's say, the peace of otherness, in a manner of speaking, spirit world. Peace here and now.
Are certain beings who operate from a higher level of consciousness, such as a living master or a guru, still subject to that rule? In other words, if they're around someone who's at a lower level of consciousness, would that affect their thoughts and actions?
Well, of course. From my understanding, people who are, let's say, enlightened are not less sensitive, not less responsive to, let's say, the feelings and the experiences of other beings and the suffering of other beings. No, they're more sensitive. They are far more sensitive. And so that's what we need to understand. So then they are given, and I'm saying from my experience of certain things, they are given this feeling of, let's say, exquisite peacefulness. And so that keeps them very emotional, because they know how beautiful that is, and they feel the suffering of other peeps. And so it's not unusual to find teachers crying, gurus crying, passionately crying, compassionately crying, because they see that these other peeps are suffering so intensely, and they can't reach them exactly, But they can still share grace and love with them, and they feel that, their need for companionship, positive companionship, their need for peaceful companionship, their need for healing, see? And many of the beings are coming from lower worlds, which is part of the spiritualist understanding. And they're coming to terms with, let's say, the earth life in such a way where they're really in need of and looking for, unconsciously needing us to help them step up into a family sense, like embracing other beings. And I think internationally this is so desperately needed in these times, where we are seeing that we have a debt to all peeps. We need to open ourselves to all beings. And maybe at some point, maybe, see, it could happen where we can somehow declare a day of peace on the earth and put all the weapons down, saying we need to declare a day of peace. We need to show that we have heart for our own people, regardless of our religious traditions that speak to the contrary. We need to know that we care for our own families, and that what we feel for our families, everybody feels for their family. And what we would want for our family, everybody wants for their family. See? And we don't want our family destroyed and taken from us, so why would anybody else realistically, intelligently, see, with their wits, want that to happen to themselves, see? Or anybody else? So